What is up, everybody? Svenddiesel here. We're going to be tying up the unweighted creeper fly. This is a super effective pattern I've had luck with bass and carp with. We're going to start with an Ahrex. This is a TP 610. This is a Semperfli wax thread in a 12/0. I like going a little bit lighter on my thread because when we're going to be building the head for this unweighted fly, I like to do more wraps versus having to manipulate the 6 wraps with a thicker denier or aught. So let's go ahead and get a nice thread shank hook there. So just go up and down, trim out your tag end. And for the tail, we're going to be using this Fish Hunter marabou. This is Sculpin olive. I think this matches really well with the material we're going to be using for the body. But you want to pick out a really nice feather. You can see right here, this one has nice, quite a bit of fluff here with some nice tapered ends. I'm going to trim out the tip because that's a very stiff stem. I'm going to pinch it in between my fingers to see how it looks. Roughly measure it so it's about 1.5 times the length of the overall hook, and then we'll go ahead and do a few secure wraps loosely up the shank of the hook, being mindful of where the hook eye. I want to trim this out a little bit before that hook eye so we're not crowding the eye, and I'll go ahead and trim that off with just my scissors here. So we'll clean that up as we advance down the shank of the hook, just really tight wraps now, and then I'll do a few over-unders to kind of group that marabou on the top of the shank of the hook. It also allows me to work it down. Now as I come up and over, I'm not doing tight wraps so that it will cut it because we're using a thinner thread, but basically loose wraps on top, and it's basically pinching it together. And here's the body material. This is the FNF Creeper in olive. It's kind of a weird core material. I don't know what it is, but it's got rubber legs integrated into it, which causes a little bit of movement and disturbance in the water, which has been pretty effective for us. So we'll tie it in here on the top of the shank, and if you have any of these rubber legs, I recommend just pulling them out real fast. You could also trim them, but we definitely want to just clean up that body, get up right there behind the eye, and I'm going to go ahead and do a single turn whip finish, or you can half hitch with your fingers, and then I'll get this thread out of the way here on the bobbin rest. Now for making this a little bit more durable, because of the core, I like to just apply a little bit of super glue here on the underside of the shank, bonding those thread wraps to the core of the shank. And also when we palmer this FNF Creeper up the shank of the hook, while this is still wet, I think in theory it is going to bond and make one really solid fly. There's nothing worse than having a few bites on it, and then next thing you know, your woolly bugger or material has creeped around the bend of the hook and actually is impeding the hook point. So we'll wrap that up about 6 to 7 wraps, and then as we get up here towards the eye, be mindful that we're not going to cover the eye, but I'll use a diagonal wrap here to trap that on the rear side, and then I'll go ahead and do about 2 or 3 wraps, trying to pull as many of those rubber legs back as possible, and then I'll do another wrap over the top. And then here's the real trick. I'm just going to pinch wrap, or pinch basically all the fibers back that I want. If you have any weird ones here that are going to cause an issue, go ahead and just pull those out, and then we will do our thread head as mentioned. And this is where having this lighter thread really pays off, because by now I would have already created a bulk, but this way I can work that material or the thread with touching wraps up that FNF Creeper, really pinching that fly off and we'll go ahead and trim it, but it's basically been pinched in there as well. And now we're going to do a 3-turn whip finish, pull back all those rubber legs so they don't get in your way and you're not going to trap one down. And then as we secure that, I'm going to go ahead and trim this off because we're going to be using a thin resin. This is the Bone Dry by Solarez. I'm going to go ahead and just pull all those fibers back so I'm not coating those with the resin, and I will apply it to each side of the hook shank there, and we'll go ahead and cure that. You can see that those rubber legs kind of go wherever they want, which is a good thing. So I'm going to go ahead, and I noticed that I could use a little bit more here on the base. Be very careful not to cover that eye with your UV resin. It could create problems down the road when you're trying to put your tippet on. However, there are solutions. Take a bodkin, heat it up, and shove it through. I don't recommend the bone dry is not very easy to chip away. So go ahead and take a nylon brush. I don't recommend metal with this material. I just kind of give it a light coat, trying to get all those rubber legs I might have trapped when palmering it out. Don't stab yourself on the hook point, and I kind of just shape them back to see what the taper or profile is going to be of this when you're stripping it through the water. You can see it's going to hold its a real good shape like it is now. And then the tail, of course, is going to taper to a point as you're stripping it in. And there is the unweighted creeper fly. Super easy, super effective. I tie these in brown and black, and it has caught some bass and some carp, and hopefully this summer as I fish these, it will land us a few trout. So thanks for watching. Click subscribe, and if you have any questions, comment below.